So you're working 40 or even 50 hours a week, you're trying to maintain a relationship, spending time with friends and family, working out 5 times a week, eating a balanced diet, which means time spent cooking and cleaning, working on a side hustle, spending time to relax, and everything else in between, but it all never seems to get done. If this is how you feel, you probably clicked on this video because you're working a full-time job that feels like it's consuming your entire life, and you're trying to fit in everything you want to do and everything you have to do. And right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, you probably won't have time for everything, but you actually have more time than you think. In fact, there's a saying that you can make time for anything, but you can't make time for everything. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to prioritize and manage your time to do all the things that are actually important to you. See, I found myself in the same position when I started my first full-time job out of college, working as an accountant just over a year ago. I went from having an abundance of time in college to working 40 hours or even sometimes up to 75 hours a week. However, using the method I'm about to walk you through, I found a way to get all my top priority things done in the time that I have. And the first thing you need to do to make this shift is to audit your time. And what I mean when I say audit your time is to figure out how you're spending your time in a given week. This is an easy first step to take because all you have to do is at the end of the day, sit down and use either a pen and paper or your notes app and jot down what you did and how much time you spent doing those things. For example, maybe you spent 8 hours sleeping, an hour to get ready in the morning, 8 hours at work, 2 hours commuting to and from work, an hour and a half at the gym, an hour and a half cooking dinner and washing dishes, an hour scrolling your phone, and an hour to get ready for bed. And then do the same process for the entire week. In terms of precision, I would say try to jot down things in 30-minute increments, because if you go any shorter, you might be getting too granular, and any longer, you might miss things that you actually did. The reason this is important is because we can't make changes to how we spend our time if we have no reference of how we've been spending our time before the change. It allows us to see how much time we have around our workday to do the things we want to do. Now that we've audited how we are spending our time, the next thing we want to do is to make a list of our wants, the things we would spend our time doing in an ideal world. This is a personal list that you want to do, not a list of things you were told you should want to do. And maybe you want to learn a new language, start a YouTube channel, go to the gym 6 times a week, hang out with friends twice a week, and have dinner with your parents once a week. The idea here is anything you want to do, make sure you jot it down. Now, once you've gone through your whole list, it's time to refine it, because as I mentioned earlier, we can't do everything right now. I want you to go through and rank them 1 through how many ever items you have on the list, with 1 being the highest priority goal. Now, this doesn't mean that we will never have enough time for the items at the bottom of the list. It just means right now we don't. In a couple years, your priorities may shift, and the thing that was number 10 is now number 3, and then you work on it then. However, right now, let's just pick the 3 or 4 highest ranked priorities on your list. The next step is to revisit your time audit from earlier. Look through your list and put an X next to all the time that was spent in one of your priority areas. If you're unsure about something on the list, then it might be a good sign that maybe this isn't something that is of the utmost importance right now, and you can put it on hold for the time being. Now that we've recognized the things that are helping us accomplish our priorities, we want to move on to building our ideal week. See, this is a concept I first learned from Ali Abdaal, who is like the king of productivity YouTube. And pretty much the idea here is to set up what your life would look like in a perfect week that when you get to the end of it, you found you spent your time exactly as you wish you would. Now, even though this is our ideal week, we still need to consider the things we have to do, because things like sleeping and working we can't avoid. So the first thing we want to do is go to Google Calendar and create a new calendar, which is completely free. Name it something like Mitchell's Ideal Week. And the first thing we want to add to this calendar are the things we can't change. So in the most likely scenario, this means blocking off time for sleeping, eating, and working. Make sure to include commuting times in this so you don't overextend yourself. After we've done that, start filling in the blank spaces in your calendar with your priority items. And similar to the commuting point, make sure to account for buffer time in all these activities, because we all know that there are those small things like washing the dishes after you cook or getting ready for bed at night that just take time. You also might find that the time you have fills up too fast, even with just 3 or 4 priorities. You might have to modify them. For example, in my scenario, I would ideally work out 5 times a week, but also I want to have time dedicated to spending time with friends. So you could combine them into one activity. For me, One night a week, I go play soccer with friends, and even though this isn't lifting, it still is physical exercise, and I've accomplished 2 priorities in one activity. Maybe for you, that could mean walking the dog with your partner because you already have to walk the dog, but you want to spend time with your significant other. There's all sorts of ways to get creative with this, and it will also just take time to figure out what actually works best for you. As you go about filling out your calendar more, you're probably going to see the obvious, and that's that you have a lot more time available to allocate on the weekends. See, for those of us with full-time jobs, the weekend is our opportunity to make the most drastic changes in our lives. But it's also the easiest time to just push off these things until next week and relax and not work on any of our goals. And if you find yourself in this position, I would just say try to use the weekends to build the life you want, not escape the life you have. What I mean by this is to use the weekends to work on those things that you picked out above as your 3 or 4 top priorities. If they really are your priorities, you should be spending time doing these things. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to grind all the time, as there certainly is a time and a place for resting and relaxing. But what it does mean is that maybe one of your priorities was to build a side hustle, and the weekend is the best opportunity you will actually have to work on this side hustle. This principle still applies even if your priority is to spend time with friends. When you get that text asking you to grab dinner or go do whatever activity you enjoy as friends, don't default to "I'm too tired and we can hang out at some point later," because those exact opportunities are the ones you just prioritize in your list. And this leads me to my next point, and it's that you don't have to and probably can't stick to this schedule all the time. Life will come up and things will happen that take you away from it, but it can be something you reference and refine over time to best fit your life. However, this same statement can also be a positive thing in that you can find smaller increments of time to work on one of your priorities that's not necessarily built into your calendar. This is an idea I learned from author Matthew Dix in his book Someday is Today, which, by the way, is my favorite self-help / productivity book of all time. Regardless, a point that he makes that really stuck with me was that maybe I don't have 2 hours to work on my YouTube channel, but there certainly will be 5 to 15-minute moments where I can sit down on my phone or laptop and make small progress on a video. Maybe I only jot down one idea or script a couple sentences, but suddenly 8 small moments across the week turn into the same 2 hours that I would have otherwise blocked off to work on a YouTube video. So the lesson here is do not underestimate the power of the little moments in helping you accomplish your goals. As for another tip to help you as you get started with this process, I think it's important to have grace with yourself. Acknowledge that you might fall off track one week, and that's totally fine. Missing one week isn't going to majorly affect the outcomes you're seeking. The thing to keep in mind is that if your week doesn't go how you wish, don't just give up on the process. Get back to trying to strive for the ideal week next week. The best part about this is that every week we have the opportunity to make it the ideal week. Ultimately, the ideal week is something that you're unlikely to achieve the first time, so it's something you continuously refine and improve on. The goal of this exercise and implementing this practice is to have it enhance your life and help you to build the life you want. I hope this method and these small tips can help you make the most of your time the same way it has impacted me. And if you found this video helpful, please drop a like and subscribe for more. Thank you very much for watching.